Story 1. On Spotify, there is a podcast called Nothing Much Happens. Bedtime stories to help you sleep. Each episode is around half an hour, but the storyteller tells the story twice, and the second time she tells it at a slower pace. I am really curious how she tells the story slower, but I was never able to make it to the second half. Sometimes I try to focus and promise myself that I will remember the story when I wake up the next morning. However, I can't recall anything. Nothing much happens, so it's extremely boring, and my brain shuts down pretty quickly. Story 2. I create a story. I used to have bad insomnia when I was younger, and the only thing that seemed to work for me was imagining a story. I would set the setting, the premise, the characters, and start coming up with it. Basically, I was kickstarting the dreaming process. I would be asleep within a few minutes. I've done it as a nightly ritual ever since. Story 3. Lie in bed on your phone until you hear the birds and the light comes through the edge of the blinds. Puts me right out after lying in bed for 4 hours. Story 4. I call this the just 5 more minutes method. You know how sometimes you happen to get up a little early, look at your phone, and it's maybe 20 minutes until you need to get up. And it feels like you're in the middle of the best, deepest sleep of your life, and you'd love just to have 5 minutes more of it? Even if you can't, really try and recapture that feeling. Sleep is incredible. Don't force it. Don't get into the mindset of, oh, I need to get to sleep right now so I can get a good 7 hours before this call in the morning and that document I need to write. Just think, those 5 minutes are the best sleep of my life. And you lucky person, are about to have like 80 of those 5-minute windows. Story 5. I imagine walking my dog along the beach on a deserted island. It is the same setting each time. A beautiful afternoon and a 5-kilometer stretch of coastline with different spots to rest and give him a drink. Once we hit the end of the coastline, we go inland up a mountain range and eventually set up camp at the top of a cliff face overlooking the beach we walked along. Except we never get that far. I am usually fast asleep before we reach the end of the beach. I lost my dog to old age about 6 years ago, so this is kind of my way of remembering my best friend too. He is still looking after me years later. Story 6. Breathing. Slow, deliberate breathing. Count the same for in and out. And for every breath out, try to relax your muscles. I just keep doing that. It works most of the time. But if I can't sleep, I won't just lie there and get frustrated about it. I will read until I feel tired again. Story 7. I have post-traumatic stress disorder from my time in the army. Frequent restlessness and anxiety made falling asleep very hard. This is what I do every night to ensure I fall asleep. Lie still on your back without moving your body. Applying lotion on arms, legs, feet, and face can help stop those annoying random itches you might get. Take a big breath through your nose, hold it for 5 seconds, then breathe out through your mouth and repeat. Focus your mind on one thought and try to think of a good memory, picturing every little detail. I'm religious, so praying helps me focus best, but to each their own. What you're trying to do is trick your body into thinking it's asleep. You'll feel a tingling through your limbs. This is completely normal, like when your leg falls asleep. It honestly takes practice, but I fall asleep within 5 minutes every time. Good luck, sleepless strangers. Story 8. I can make myself fall asleep on command. I swear to God it's a skill because I used to have a lot of trouble with it. You have to completely clear your mind. You can think about neutral, inconsequential things only, like crafting or collecting or a soothing hobby. You can even think about where you'd like to be, like a boat, or remember sleeping in a hotel at a place you really liked. I have a window unit, so that helps with that. If I would like a visual aid, I watch videos on the lowest brightness and no sound of crafting, drawing, aquarium keeping, and soothing things. I turn it off only when I start to doze. You must ban yourself from thinking about the day, or exciting things, or anything negative. No emotions allowed. Neutral only. Only be soothed. Checking the time cannot be allowed either. It doesn't matter. If I told you you could take an 8-hour nap, wouldn't that be fantastic? Wouldn't even a 4-hour nap in the middle of a busy life also even still be fantastic? Consider it a break at last from everything. Hours long of a break. So relax. Pretty much with that, I am completely out. Can't tell you how long it takes because I literally don't allow myself to see. It's better that way. I can't get in my head about numbers of hours I've been asleep if I don't know. Even during the day, I don't allow myself to complain of it or think of it. Story 9. According to my husband, all you need to do is imagine endless darkness, like space. He falls asleep in minutes. I lay in bed for hours trying to fall asleep, so who knows? Story 10. I do the following. 1. Limit the amount of food consumed in the evening because it can make me bloated and prevent me from sleeping well. Avoid drinking alcohol or caffeine right before bed because they will disrupt my sleep. Take a warm shower, relax, and drink a glass of hot milk. Read books. Hope that helps. Story 11. The key to falling asleep is focusing on only one thing. I know it is harder than it sounds. That is why they say to count sheep, but you can only be thinking of the sheep and numbers with no wandering thoughts. I try to remember every detail of a movie in my mind in chronological order and try to watch it in my mind. My go-to is Sweet Home Alabama because it was one of my favorites growing up, and I have seen it a million times. Story 12. When I really need to sleep, I use the 4-7-8 breathing technique. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Works like a charm most of the time. Story 13. Progressive relaxation. Tense your toes, breathe in for a 5 count, hold for 5, and then relax as you exhale. Then your calves, then your thighs, your buttocks, your core, and so on. Story 14. I have a few lines of defense. First, mindful breathing to get the heart rate down and relax. If this fails, take 5 milligrams of melatonin. Wait 1 hour. If this fails, take 25 milligrams of trazodone, a non-habit-forming antidepressant used off-label for acute insomnia. Story 15. Imagine I am lost in a snowstorm and come across a warm cabin and lie down, or countless other scenarios where I am lost and in danger and find a safe place to sleep. Story 16. I don't know if it's weird, but for me, what I do is I just put on a movie either on my laptop or on my phone. 10 minutes into watching it, I usually fall asleep. Sometimes I use YouTube videos instead of movies. The funny thing is, I usually know what happened in the movie before I fell asleep, and it's not like I'm not enjoying the movie. I usually take about 3 days to finish a movie. Story 17. Close your eyes and concentrate on the amorphous colors and shapes you see behind your eyelids. Try to willingly make them move like in a spiral. Or maybe you see a shape that looks like something. Keep focusing on the shapes and colors. I discovered this rather recently, and it has reliably put me to sleep in about 2 minutes. This is coming from someone who has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and whose brain never shuts up when it's bedtime. Story 18. Watching videos on demand of comm streamers. Slightly less comm streamers work too, but sometimes wake me up again. Not only does it actually help, it also somewhat creates a Pavlovian effect. A consistent sleep schedule and minimizing triggers close to bedtime work great too. It's easy to sleep for too long. Your body is great at adapting to the time you give it to rest. Rest for too long, and your circadian rhythm will exceed 24 hours, which pushes your bedtime into the night. Story 19. Sleep deprive yourself for years, and I mean really sleep deprive yourself for years upon years. Wake up at 4 a.m. every day to do something unwise. Try staying up all night a few days in a row while operating heavy machinery to add some risk. Drink so much coffee to stay awake that it no longer has an effect on you. Become so tired that you fall asleep standing up. Become so tired you can fall asleep in an unusual position. Keep doing this repeatedly. When you do sleep, have someone wake you up in the middle of your sleep to tell you something. Only sleep for about 2 hours at a time as well. Anyway, do this for 6, 7, 8 or more years. Once you've done that, you can fall asleep anywhere, anyplace, anytime. Story 20. First, I lie on my back without the covers and genuinely try to fall asleep. Then I turn to my side and pull my covers on, and as I get to this optimal comfort position and my body starts to warm up, I fall asleep like a baby. Sometimes I also take a cold shower so that the warming effect will calm me and do the trick. Story 21. Think of a black river surrounded by darkness. Anytime you think of anything other than this black river, Turn that thing into a single little image, like a phone icon, pack it into a clear box, and watch that box drift down the river and out of sight. Repeat this for anything you think of. Weird, I know, but it works for me. My wife was amazed when I told her to try this, and it instantly worked for her as well. Story 22. I close my eyes and imagine myself trashing my office, pouring soup on my coworkers' laptops, jumping up and down on desks, generally misbehaving. It's very relaxing. Story 23. I try to create a survival shelter in a forest. I try to picture everything pretty vividly. I never get past the first 2 or 3 logs I need to stack before I wake up the next morning. Story 24. Stemmed from trauma and disassociation. I created an entire alternative universe in my head with multiple intelligent species. Space travel, war, politics, world events, friendships, and relationships. For nearly 10 years, when I attempt to sleep, I put myself inside this universe and continue where I left off. Every day I do this is a day, 2 or 3 in the alternative version, so over 10 years, a lot has happened. Nowadays, and possibly for a long time, when I do this, I can generally fall asleep in minutes. As you can imagine, years of falling asleep in minutes has slowed and almost halted progression. In fact, I have been thinking about trying to recreate it and write a book about it. Story 25. Square breathing. Regular bedtime and rise. Using light to entrain the circadian rhythm, exposed to bright light when I want the brain to mark rise time. Avoiding bright light before then, even if awake. No bright screens before bedtime. It breaks down your natural melatonin levels. Story 26. Be tired before you get in bed. If I am not, I usually need chemical help. Antihistamines, melatonin, or alcohol. I have not figured out another way to fall asleep quickly if it is not my bedtime yet. Story 27. Watching relaxing YouTube videos, especially if they are in a playlist and have long videos. My current go-to is Zachnafine. He plays a game called The Long Dark, and he just has such a relaxing voice. The other person I often watch for sleep is City Planner Plays. My favorite is his Verde Beach series in City Skylines. Some other honorable mentions would be Mountain Rug Cleaning, Midwest Magic Cleaning, Stampy Longhead, Studsun Studio, Pause Build, and Wells Night Gaming, particularly his House Flipper videos. Story 28. There's a trick a nurse taught me during my second stay at the mental hospital. She asked if I wanted advice, and I flat out told her I knew I couldn't sleep in new places due to anxiety and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. She recommended something that has absolutely changed my life. I don't know if this will work for anyone else, but when I can't sleep because I have so much energy, this is what I do. She said focus on a muscle group. Be it feet, calves, thighs, and just work your way up. Flex your muscles as hard as possible. Get that adrenaline going. And after a bit, relax. Slowly work your way up to your head and face. You can feel the waves of calm wash over each section once they relax. Story 29. I don't remember where I heard it, but I've had success with free associating. Basically, pick a random word and then keep naming the first word that comes to your mind. There are no wrong answers, no rush. Just pick something and keep on going. I don't think I've made it past a couple dozen words. Story 30. Trying to list through everything for which I am grateful. No need for other nuanced feelings, no matter how big or small, tangible or abstract. I will usually fall asleep not far in. Story 31. I usually let my imagination run free. Usually, my mind will paint a picture and I try not to resist anything that it does, even if it doesn't make sense. I'm not dreaming yet, and I try not to overthink anything. I try to keep myself from forcing something to happen. I just let things play out like a movie, just visualizing movement vividly in my mind. It works every time. I don't know if this makes sense or if it works for anybody else. I tried to explain it once to my husband, but I don't think I explained myself correctly. Story 32. When I am having trouble falling asleep, I play a game where I try to keep my eyes open without blinking as long as I can. My eyelids inevitably feel heavier and heavier, and then I fall asleep. Story 33. I go through long periods of being awake half the night, so I have tried plenty of ideas over the years. For a while now, I imagine that I am running a restaurant or a cooking class in my head. I make up regular patrons or students that are all very friendly. I talk about the recipe of usually whatever the last thing I actually cooked was. I have no professional culinary education or experience in real life, but I love cooking, and it is pleasant to imagine people who would be super interested in what I had to say on the subject. This is the only thing that has ever actually worked for me to fall asleep. Story 34. Similar to the memory palace technique, I built a sleep palace. I picture myself walking up the familiar path to it, going inside, and settling down in bed. The more active your brain, the more details you can add to your sleep palace. Mine is an A-frame cabin in a coniferous forest with huge windows that overlook a valley. I always picture it starting to rain as I get there, so listening to rain sounds in the background helps too. Story 35. The military hurt my brain, so I have trouble sleeping. This is going to sound odd, but I imagine cuddling with a dog or a cat. I try to remember what it is like to snuggle an animal, and that makes me feel better so I can sleep. Story 36. I put on nighttime baby lotion after I brush my teeth. My kids are older now, but we will always have that lotion in our house. I think it is one of the best smelling scents on the planet, and it is very calming. Story 37. I look at the squiggles, light bursts, and lines that I see when my eyes are closed. I'm not sure what it's called. I'm not hallucinating, I don't think. But the colors are usually white, green, red, and kind of purple. Never any other colors. It's like my own personal fireworks display in my own head. My husband thinks I'm crazy and thinks I have some sort of burned retina or something. Laughing out loud.